You just heard it. All the players are very fond of the way Brandon Hyde is running this camp. And for that, I now bring in Roch Kubatko, MASNsports.com beat writer for the Orioles. Roch, you have been covering this team for probably longer than I've been alive at this point.
Thanks.
Wow.
Thanks for that.
Not to make you feel old, but you've seen camps being run in all different types of ways. Now, we heard from Brandon Hyde, we heard from the players. I'm happy to make you both laugh. What is so special and different about this camp, in your opinion, Roch?
I'm going to try and finish this segment without breaking a hip. Plus, I need my nap. It's coming up on nap time for me.
The funny thing is, it's true, but go ahead.
Yes, it really is. I could use a nap, trust me.
Continue along, please.
Honestly, you know, and players that are raving about how things are going in camp and the energy, they're being very careful not to make it seem like there was anything wrong with the old camp. Especially, you know, guys that are back. It's, you know, respect for Buck Showalter, Dan Duquette, and the coaching staff. But it's interesting because it's such a high energy level and a high level of enthusiasm for a team coming off 115 losses. You thought maybe that would beat them down a little bit, and it really hasn't. And I think a lot of it is because, first of all, they did a good job of just putting that behind them. And that's kind of the message, you know, from day one here is forget about that. That's over. You can't do anything about it. Don't look back. But also, there's so much competition in camp. I think guys are energized. It's like guys aren't showing up thinking, okay, there's 24 spots set, it's all veterans, and I'm just going to try and make an impression. And then when I go to the minors, maybe get a call later. These are guys that say, I have a chance to win a job here. So I think that's added to the enthusiasm. Brandon's done this great mix where he's making it fun for them, but also getting all their work done. Like, it's been very intense, but it's kind of like, okay, we're done now. Everybody get out of here.
Exactly.
They played music during the early workouts. There's music in the clubhouse. So guys are having fun. He's coming up with drills where you're learning from them, but at the same time, you're making them fun. You're having competitions like the relays with the four-man, the throws. You know, we're going to start keeping score to have winners, but yet it's still a drill that's important because you might need that during the season. So I think it's just been a really good mix of getting our work done, but also having fun doing it.
Yeah, and they're playing good music too.
They are.
One of the guys that's in that competition is John Means. He has been impressive. He's looked impressive. And from everybody that I talked to, they seem to be impressed with him too. His velo is up. Right. What have you seen with John Means?
Yeah. By the way, speaking of music, at my age, I like kind of the slower stuff. That's been my problem. Yeah, I don't know what these kids today are
because
listening
of the hip.
to. Yes, exactly.
I'll just point out that I really like the music they're playing. I'm hearing all different types, but I love it, on the record.
You know, Means is a great example of the competition in camp. And no offense to him, but before camp started, I would have given him probably a less than 0% chance of heading north with the club because he just wasn't in discussion, needed more experience. Figure put him in the AAA rotation, just hope that he kind of starts beating down the door later if there's a need. But all of a sudden, he's pitching so well, and no one has seized the 5th spot yet. It's still an open competition. And now with the news that Nate Carnes might not be ready to start out in the rotation, they may not be able to stretch him out enough, you may have 2 openings now in the rotation. And so Means all of a sudden is in the conversation that we were excluding him from before. I kind of feel bad for the guy. I feel like I owe him an apology. But he's pitching really, really well. And the velocity is up, which is something he worked on in the offseason. He said, I know how to pitch. He trusts his stuff, but can he get the most out of it? Right. So that was really the thing. So, you know, he's still not one of the favorites, but at least he is in that discussion. And he is making an impression. He's getting guys out. And I like the mentality with him because I thought he'd be raving about his outing yesterday. And Brandon Hyde was raving about it. He gave up 1 hit and 3 scoreless, and yet Means it's like, actually my last one was better in Tampa against the Yankees, the 2 scoreless. He didn't feel like his curveball was as good. He didn't feel as good as he did in that one. And I'm thinking, well, good for you for not just saying, hey, 3 scoreless and, you know, being satisfied with that. So I think maybe that probably also left a nice impression with the club, that this kid, he understands pitching enough to know that he wasn't at his best, though it was good enough to get outs.
Yeah, a lot of the players extremely humble throughout this camp, and they're learning from each other and feeding off each other. In fact, David Hess earlier told me the same thing. They're just learning a lot from guys similar to their age with little big league experience, and a guy like John Means. Now, Roch, I hate to bring this up because I feel like every season or every week we're talking about Chris Davis, but we do have to talk about Chris Davis. He's
a polarizing figure, isn't he?
Absolutely
he really
is a polarizing figure. Now, unfortunately, he is dealing with a sore hip, and he's out of the lineup again. How concerning is this for you about Chris Davis?
It's really hard to tell because he hasn't talked to us about it yet. And maybe that happens tomorrow. I mean, the hip is strong enough that he's moving fine. We showed up at the complex at the same time this morning, and I jokingly started to power walk to him. And
you weren't joking. Yeah, you were power walking, Roch.
And he held the door open for me, which I appreciated. But then, you know, he had breakfast. We saw him walking down the hallway a few times. But until he addresses it, it's going to leave open, okay, how serious is this?
Sure.
Right now, it's considered day-to-day. But, you know, he had an elbow issue one spring, as I recall, that lingered farther and affected his season, and there have been some other things. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's just some soreness and it'll go away, and they're just being careful with him. But we won't know the exact severity until we see how long he is out of the lineup and when he addresses it. And he probably would downplay it no matter what. He's probably going to say, I just felt a little something, we're being careful. But each day that passes without him playing
a little more sketchy
will then make you think, hey,
sure.
Is this more serious? Because we're always suspicious. And you never underplay an injury. I learned that from some of the greats in the business. At Baltimore Sundays, Joe Strauss, Peter Schmuck, never underwrite an injury. Because it's always easier to be like, okay, it wasn't that bad, than it is to go the other way and say, whoops, I acted like it was nothing, and this guy's now on the 60-day deal. So we're going to make a big deal about it until it isn't a big deal.
Until he clarifies it.
That's right.
I want to bring it back to pitching, and you brought this guy's name up, David Hess. We're asking about the fourth and fifth start in this rotation. Who is this guy going to be? David Hess, ERA last year under 4.9, under 4.7 as a starter, and under 4 down the stretch. Why is it that we're not looking for the fifth starter because David Hess is automatically the fourth?
Right. Well, you know, again, if there is an opening for 2 starters, that even increases chances more. But I think David Hess would be the favorite, whether it's 4 or 5 right now, because of what he did last year. We saw some really good starts from him. There were some rocky ones too, to be expected. They like how he looks in camp right now. So in that field of guys, first of all, he's got a little more experience than the others if you look at the number of starts and how the success he had in the minors. I think, and he's pitching well now, that he's a guy that if I had to do a mock 25-man roster right now, he's in my rotation. The only problem is I don't know if Nate Carnes is or not, which takes us back to is it 4 or is it 5? But either way, I think he's a guy that earns that opportunity. And then, you know, there could be, that shuttle could be busy going to Norfolk back and forth because there's so many guys that are optionable. If he struggles at all, maybe you send him down, you bring up somebody else, whether it's a John Means or if Luis Ortiz is down there and starts pitching well. If Yacobonis doesn't make the club or if Jeffrey Ramirez doesn't make the club, whatever, you can kind of shuttle guys back and forth. We may see David Hess, many incarnations, is that the word, of David Hess, where he's, you know, okay, there's the May version, now there's the July version coming back, or he establishes himself and stays all year. I mean, that'll be largely up to him how he throws.
You put that on the blog.
Yes.
Incarnation.
David Hess. I do think we're going to see a lot of shuttles running back between Norfolk and
Bowie. I think so. They used, what,
Baltimore
56 guys last year? I think they're going to come real close to that total this year.
I think you're right. Listen, Roch Kubatko of MASNsports.com, I appreciate the time.
I appreciate you pointing out how old I am. One last time.
No comment.